Level 1. The engagé volontaire. You are 18. You don't come from here. That's the point. You came from Krakow, or Bucharest, or Sao Paulo, or Algiers. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you walk through the gate of a Legion recruitment post in Paris with a bag, a passport, and a reason you'll never fully explain to anyone. The first thing they do is take your passport. You are given food, a bed, and a set of overalls that don't fit. You are not yet a legionnaire. You are an engagé volontaire, an enlisted volunteer, standing in a doorway. The door has not yet opened. From Paris, you are sent by train to Aubagne, east of Marseille, where the Legion runs its selection process. 2 to 3 weeks of testing. Fitness, a shuttle run, pull-ups, push-ups, a timed swim. Intelligence tests conducted in French, even if you can't speak it. Psychology, long interviews about your past, your motivations, your crimes, if any exist. Half the men around you disappear between one morning and the next. No announcement. Their beds are simply empty. You make it through. You sign a 5-year contract under a declared identity, a name the Legion assigns you until you earn the right to reclaim your own. Then you are bussed west to Castelnaudary, a small market town in the Languedoc, where the 4th Foreign Regiment, the 4th RE, runs the Legion's only basic training program. They call it La Ferme, the farm. For the first 4 weeks, you are rebuilt from the outside in. Wake up is 5 a.m. There is dark, and then there is noise, and you are expected to be standing before your mind has caught up with your body. Breakfast is functional. Everything is functional. The Legion does not feed you to make you comfortable. It feeds you to keep you operational. The marching begins in the 2nd week. Full kit, a rifle, terrain that doesn't apologize. Your boots find the blisters that were already forming from day 1 and press on them without mercy. Your section has 16 men. A Hungarian named Varga, who says he was a construction worker. A Brazilian named Carvalho, who moves like someone who has been in trouble before and learned from it. A Moroccan who gives his name as Benali and keeps everything else to himself. You don't ask. In the Legion, the past is a door that stays closed. At the end of 4 weeks, you face the Marche Kepi Blanc, 60 to 80 kilometers over 2 days in full combat kit. No shortcuts. The men who cannot finish return to the farm and begin again in the next cycle, if they choose to. Most don't. You finish it. On the 3rd morning, a senior sergeant walks the line and places a white kepi on each head. Yours feels heavier than you expected for a piece of pressed felt. You take an oath to serve with honneur et fidélité. You are now permitted to call yourself a legionnaire. Then you return for 11 more weeks. Weapons, navigation, mountain warfare in the Pyrenees at Formiguères, French language instruction every single day. At the end comes the Marche Raid, 120 kilometers in 3 days, full kit, not a celebration, a confirmation. You finish that too. Legio Patria Nostra. The Legion is our fatherland. You didn't understand it when you arrived. On the bus to your assigned regiment, you begin to. Level 2, the Legionnaire de Deuxième Classe. You are 19. You've been assigned to the 2nd Foreign Infantry Regiment, the 12e REI, based in Nimes. This is the largest and oldest active regiment of the Legion. You are its newest, lowest cell. Your first deployment comes 8 months in. The regiment is tasked to the Central African Republic as part of Operation Sangaris, France's stabilization mission in a country coming apart along ethnic and religious fault lines. You fly into Bangui in the summer of 2014, pressed into a transport with 30 other legionnaires. The equatorial heat is already pressing through the fuselage before the doors open. Bangui announces itself before you see it. Charcoal smoke and red laterite dust, the kind that gets into your collar, your rifle barrel, the corners of your eyes. Children run alongside the convoy as it moves from the airport. They are not afraid. They have watched convoys long enough that armed men in trucks are simply part of the landscape. Your section is assigned to patrol duty in the northern districts of the city. 4-man teams, twice daily, on foot. You have no interpreter most days. You learn to read space and body, language faster than vocabulary. One afternoon in the 3rd month, your patrol enters a courtyard and finds 30 people gathered, completely still, watching a doorway. A corporal named Ionescu holds up a closed fist. Everyone stops. From inside the building, voices, a crash, then silence. He radios it in. 4 minutes pass that feel like 40. Eventually, a door opens from the inside. An old man steps out, looks at all of you, looks at the ground, and walks away. You never find out what was inside that room. That night, you write a letter home. In a language you almost forgot you knew. You don't describe the courtyard. You describe the African sky after dark instead, which is extraordinary. More stars than you have ever seen, unfiltered by any city light. A view worth the distance. The deployment ends. You fly back into Marseille on a grey Tuesday. You are still 19 by the calendar. Something about the number feels less accurate than it used to. Level 3. The Legionnaire de Première Classe. You are 21. Promotion in the Legion is not given. It is recognized. There is a difference. A superior doesn't promote you because you asked. He promotes you because, over more than a year, he has watched how you move when things go wrong. And you moved correctly. One stripe on your sleeve. The quiet acknowledgement that you are no longer the unknown quantity in the room. You're now assigned to the 1st Foreign Cavalry Regiment, the 1st REC in Orange. Armored Reconnaissance. You retrain on the VBCI infantry fighting vehicle over 3 months. You learn to trust it the way a sailor learns to trust a ship, with complete knowledge of every flaw. Your second major deployment is Mali. Operation Barkhane. The Sahel? Nothing prepares you for the Sahel. The desert north of Gao is not the desert from films. There is dust the color of bone that never fully settles, heat that presses on the top of your skull, and an enemy that holds no position, wears no uniform, and follows no logic you were trained to anticipate. IEDs, ambushes on dirt tracks that all look identical. Nights so cold, after days so hot, that your body stops trying to reconcile the difference. A legionnaire named Ferreira, Portuguese, 23, a man who uses words the way a surgeon uses a scalpel, was in the Sahel 2 years ago with a different unit. He doesn't offer advice unless you ask. You ask. He says, don't try to understand the terrain. Learn to move inside it. You apply this to everything for 3 months. On a resupply run in January, your convoy takes fire from a ridgeline 2 kilometers east. 11 minutes. Nobody is hit. After it ends, Ferreira checks his rifle, drinks from his canteen, says nothing. You do the same. That night, you sit at the edge of the camp and watch the same stars you described to your mother in that letter from Bangui. The same sky, different silence. You are 21 and you understand things now that have no word for them in the language you grew up speaking. You have tried the French words. They don't quite fit either. You suspect this is not a translation problem. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what you want next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We upload every single day. Level 4, the Caporal. You are 23. To become a Caporal, you must pass a 1 to 2 month corporal's course. Leadership assessment in the field, where you are evaluated not on how well you perform tasks, but on how well you make others perform them. You discover this difference on day 3. Your 4-man group is lost on a night navigation exercise in the Cevennes Mountains. You have a map, a compass, and 4 men looking at you. Every instinct says, project certainty. Leaders don't show doubt, but you stop. You read the map out loud and say, I think we're here. Check me, Diallo, the young Senegalese legionnaire in your section, the fastest mind among you, spots the error. You correct it. You reach the waypoint 40 minutes late, but you reach it. You pass the course. The chevrons mean you now lead a fire team of 4 men. You inspect their kit. You write their initial evaluations. You stand between them and everything above. Rank, orders, consequence. This is the most honest position in the Legion's hierarchy. Close enough to the men that nothing is abstract. Senior enough that your decisions carry weight. Your third deployment is French Guiana. The 3EREI holds permanent garrison in Kourou. Jungle border security along the frontiers with Suriname and Brazil. The jungle is a different discipline from the desert. The desert makes you feel exposed. The jungle makes you feel watched. You learn to move in silence. You learn that the jungle is always louder than you are, and that when it goes quiet, that silence is the most important sound you will ever hear. One evening, your team detects a group crossing the border illegally. Not armed, not hostile, simply exhausted. 3 adults, 2 children. You radio it in, hold position, wait for the gendarmerie unit to arrive, then stand down. You think about that order for a long time afterward. Not with guilt, with the particular weight that comes from understanding that orders can be simultaneously correct and insufficient, and that your job is to follow them while holding that weight privately without letting it become noise. You don't write that in any report. Level 5, the Sergeant. You are 27. Sergeant is the first true NCO rank in the French Foreign Legion. You lead a section of up to 12 men, not by standing in front of them, but by building the conditions in which they operate. Their discipline is your product. Their readiness is your product. When they fail, you failed first. You've been posted back to Castelnaudary as a training instructor. You are now on the other side of those 5 o'clock lights, the one walking the inspection line, the one who decides whether the section runs it again or eats. There is a recruit in your cycle named Skovrabov, Georgian, physically exceptional, first to finish every run. But his face argues before his mouth does. When he disagrees with an instruction, you can see it arriving in his eyes 2 seconds early. In civilian life, this would be called confidence. In the Legion, it is a fracture that will crack under pressure and take the men around him with it. You pull him aside after a night exercise. Not in front of the others. You don't threaten. You say, "Your instincts are good. Your timing is wrong. There's a difference between thinking and broadcasting." He says nothing. That is the right answer. There will be a moment in the field where your instinct saves your section. But that only happens if they trust you enough to follow you into it. They won't follow a man who makes them feel second-guessed every hour. By the end of the cycle, Skovrabov is the quietest and most followed man in his section. He receives his white kepi in a February ceremony in a village square in the Languedoc. You watch from the back. The best version of authority is the one that doesn't need to announce itself. The sections that hold together in the dark are led by people who spent the daylight hours making themselves unnecessary. Level 6, the Sergeant Chef. You are 31. Sergeant Chef. Senior Staff Sergeant. Over a decade in the Legion. The institution has replaced enough of you. Your reflexes, your patience, your ability to sit still while everything around you moves, that you are no longer quite the person who took a train to Aubagne with a borrowed story and a bag that was too light. You are posted to the French military garrison in Djibouti, a small volcanic country at the junction of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. From 1962 until 2011, the Legion's 13th DBLE was permanently garrisoned here. You serve as part of the rotational structure. Training coordination, readiness schedules, liaison with Djiboutian armed forces. You attend joint planning sessions as the most experienced person in the room without a commissioned rank. You are expected to speak precisely, briefly, and only when you have something to add. You learn to do all 3 simultaneously. An officer you work alongside, Major Delacroix, regular French army attached to the garrison, disagrees with your security rotation assessment in a planning session. You say so once, in 2 sentences, without elaboration. He adjusts. He says nothing to acknowledge it. That is the correct response from both sides. 3 months later, he tells you, you know how to disagree without making it about you. That's rarer than it sounds in this army. You file this away. Your posting ends. You rotate back to France. For the first time, somewhere quiet at the back of your mind, you think about what happens at the end of a Legion career. The thought doesn't frighten you. It is simply there, present, clear, requiring no immediate action. Level 7. The Adjutant. You are 35. Adjutant. Warrant officer. You sit at the junction of 2 languages. The language of execution, which you have spoken for 17 years, and the language of decision. The sergeants below you execute. The officers above you decide. You make the translation clean. You are posted to the Legion's headquarters in Aubagne, home of the Museum of Memory and of the Legion's most sacred artifact, a wooden hand. Captain Jean d'Anjou lost his left hand in 1853 when his musket exploded during a survey in Algeria. He built a wooden prosthetic himself, articulated and finely made, worn strapped to his wrist beneath a white glove. On April 30th, 1863, during France's intervention in Mexico, d'Anjou, serving as adjutant major of the 1st Battalion, volunteered to lead the 3rd Company to protect a supply convoy heading to Puebla. 62 legionnaires, 3 officers. They were intercepted by a Mexican force that grew throughout the day to nearly 2,000 men. d'Anjou gathered his men, passed around a bottle of wine, and made each of them swear an oath not to surrender. He was shot in the chest at noon and killed. His men fought on for 6 more hours. By evening, only 3 legionnaires were standing. They fixed bayonets and charged. 2 survived. The Mexican commander who accepted their surrender reportedly said, "These are not men. They are lions." The wooden hand was found on the battlefield and returned to the Legion. Every April 30th, Cameroon Day, it is carried on parade in a glass case. The account of the battle is read aloud in full. Officers serve coffee to their men in memory of the coffee d'Anjou's company never had the chance to drink on the morning of that battle. This year, you coordinate the ceremony. 400 legionnaires, visiting officers from 4 nations. The precise sequencing of the reading, the march, the carrying of the hand. You do not find ceremony empty. Ritual is how institutions remember what they are for. An institution that stops remembering eventually stops being itself. A young sergeant assists you during the preparation week. You give him 2 specific jobs and leave him alone to do them. He executes both correctly. Afterward, you tell him, "You don't have to earn your place every hour. You already have it. Do the work." He exhales like something has been untightened in his chest. You remember someone saying something similar to you years ago in fewer words. The ceremony unfolds as it should. The hand is carried. The names are read. You stand at attention for 40 minutes, and somewhere in the stillness, you feel not sentimentality. You burned that out years ago, but a kind of precision. Everything you have done for 17 years has been preparation for understanding what this moment means. Level 8, the Adjutant Chef. You are 40. Adjutant Chef. The senior warrant officer rank in the French military, the highest non-commissioned rank available. There are men in this building who were not born when you signed your first contract. Your function now is the function of a foundation. Foundations don't appear in photographs. They don't make speeches. When a regimental commander wants to understand the real condition of his unit, not the condition in the reports, but the actual condition, he asks you. There is a crisis in your regiment, a misconduct allegation against a well-regarded section leader. Credible. Complex. The officer corps is unsettled. You gather facts for 4 days, speak to 7 people in different settings. Listen not just to what they say, but to what they soften and what they don't mention until the 3rd meeting. On the 5th day, You write 1 page. No accusations. No performance. A clear account of what the evidence supports, what it does not, and a recommended course of action in plain language. The commanding officer follows your recommendation. The section leader is removed from command, assigned to a support role, and entered into a structured review process. Not destroyed, corrected. You believe this is the right outcome. You also know you might be wrong. You hold both things simultaneously without needing to resolve them. This is the actual product of experience. Not certainty, but the capacity to act correctly in its absence. Level 9. The sous-lieutenant. You are 43. Most commissioned officers in the French Foreign Legion come from Saint-Cyr, France's premier military academy, or from other French army regiments. Approximately 1 in 10 is promoted from the ranks. An exceptional NCO offered a commission after a career of demonstrated judgment. It is rare. It is not campaigned for. It arrives. You receive the offer on a Tuesday morning, in writing, with 3 days to decide. You take 2. Sous-lieutenant. The pips on your shoulder feel strange after 25 years of NCO stripes on your sleeve. The sergeants you once worked beside now salute you. Diallo, the young Senegalese legionnaire who spotted your navigation error in the Seven 20 years ago, is now a sergeant chef in your company. His salute the first morning contains an entire history, and you both know it. Command at officer level is different, not in scale, but in distance. You are further from the action and more responsible for it simultaneously. Every decision travels through layers before it reaches the ground, and by the time it does, it no longer sounds entirely like what you said. This is the permanent condition of command. You were warned about it. The warning did not fully convey what it feels like. A young legionnaire, Romanian, first deployment, blisters on both heels, asks you one afternoon how long it takes before you stop being afraid. You think about it before answering. That is the only honest way. You don't stop, you say. You learn to move while it's present. Fear doesn't go away. You just stop waiting for it to leave before you act. He nods, without fully understanding yet. You remember being him. You remember exactly what it felt like to nod at something true before you knew it was true. Level 10. The colonel. You are 52. Colonel, commander of a regiment. You oversee more than 1,000 legionnaires. Your signature approves deployments. Your assessments shape careers. You attend meetings in Paris where decisions are made that your men will execute in the Sahel, in French Guiana, in the Horn of Africa. You have a car with a driver, an office with a window that looks over the parade ground, a rank that opens doors before you reach them. You also have, on your desk at 7:30 on a Wednesday in March, a personnel file. A legionnaire in his 6th year, Mali veteran, decorated, flagged by the regimental medical officer for psychological instability following his last deployment. The recommendation is discharge. The language is careful and bureaucratic, the way language always is when it is trying to avoid accountability for a hard call. You read the file twice, then you call the medical officer, then the man's section sergeant, then you read the man's complete record from the farm. His fitness scores, his promotion timeline, his letters of commendation, and a sergeant's report from after the Mali deployment that reads, if you read it carefully, like a description of a man carrying something he has not been helped to set down. You overturn the discharge recommendation. You authorize reassignment to a garrison support role and entry into a structured reintegration program. You write the justification yourself in plain language, and you put your name to it completely. 3 months later, the legionnaire completes the program and requalifies for active duty. You will never meet him. He will never know your name is in the decision that kept him. The paperwork carries no ceremony. This is as it should be. The decisions that matter most at this level are the ones that need no audience, because they are simply correct. and correctness, when it becomes habitual, stops needing to be seen. You have been in the French Foreign Legion for 34 years. You have attended 22 Cameroon Day ceremonies. You have buried 4 legionnaires. You have commissioned 9. You have held a rifle in the dark in the Central African Republic, moved through the Malian desert with no guarantee of return, walked jungle patrol routes in French Guiana, and stood at attention in Aubagne, while the account of 62 men and their impossible afternoon in Mexico was read aloud to hundreds of men who chose, for their own reasons, to live by what those 62 men proved. You have been 18 in overalls that didn't fit. You have been 52 with a colonel's insignia and a window that looks over a parade ground. Between those two versions of the same person, something was built. Not by the Legion alone, not by you alone. By the sustained collision of the two, year after year, deployment after deployment, decision after decision, until the collision stopped feeling like a collision and started feeling like motion. Legio Patria Nostra. The Legion is our fatherland. You understand it now. Not because you were told what it means, because you spent 34 years becoming what it requires. Some men leave the Legion and spend the rest of their lives looking for a language to describe it. Others leave and never speak of it at all. The ones who stayed long enough understand something that cannot be transferred through explanation. That belonging is not a feeling you receive. It is a practice you sustain. The white kepi is given once. What you do with it, that is entirely yours.